Outpost Sigma-9 floated like a jagged scar on the edge of Council space. Built on the remains of an asteroid belt, the Fortress Station was the Council's newest initiative, a joint military training program to foster unity and shared values among species. High Commander Tyrell of the Valkyrie Dominion was not impressed. The docking bay reeked of industrial lubricants and Terran rust metal. His second-in-command, Ledatus Solvak, twitched his frill nervously. "This station lacks proper honor shrines. Even the banners are crooked," Tyrell grunted. "Humans built it. Their species' values function over form," Solvak tilted his head, "and madness over logic, if the stories are true." The other species arrived in waves, the crystalline Cythery gliding in on hoverplates, their translucent bodies humming, the hulking Branath pounding the deck with claws thicker than armor plating. Elite warriors, strong, disciplined. Then, the Terrans arrived. A small transport ship hissed open, and a squad of humans stepped out. Their uniforms were mismatched, sleeves rolled, boots muddy. One had tattoos across both arms and a toothpick in his mouth. Another was laughing so hard at a private joke that he snorted. A female recruit with a shaved head slapped a teammate on the back hard enough to make him stumble. Tyrell narrowed. His eyes. "These are warriors?" Latian Solvak checked his datapad. "Confirmed. Unit Delta Foxtrot 9, Earth origin, all combat qualified." A Terran at the back dropped his duffel bag, which hit the deck with a loud clang. "Damn thing's still got shrapnel in it," he muttered. "Souvenir from the Titan range run." "Was that part of your war?" A passing Branath warrior asked, curious. The human grinned. "Nah, man, that was training." Tyrell felt his stomach knot. Inside the barracks, chaos reigned, where the Valkyrie recruits sat in perfect meditation poses and the Cythari floated in synchronized formation. The humans sprawled out like a species unaware of war protocol. One sat cross-legged on top of a bunk bed, reading an old paperback titled How to Punch Things Better. Another had already set up a miniature coffee station beside her cot. Tyrell and Solvak watched in silent horror as a human named Cato poured boiling black fluid into a dented metal cup and gulped it down like it was nectar. "That liquid is over 360 Kelvin, Solvak hissed. "It should cause throat blisters." "Yeah, that's the point," Cato said without missing a beat. "Burns out the sleep." Another human, this one with a scar running from chin to ear, walked in with a grin. "Hey, anyone got the chili ration packs? I'm feeling spicy." Oh, Cythery, brave but visibly uncomfortable, floated forward. "Excuse me. Human Cato, was it? We have heard of your planet. They say it is dangerous." Cato chuckled and leaned back. "Yeah, we call it Earth. Locals just call it Tuesday." Later in the main training hall, the recruits were lined up before the legendary Sergeant Voss, the drill instructor known throughout council channels as the Waker of Nightmares. He was human, of course, a wall of muscle, sun-scarred skin, and eyes, like storm clouds. He didn't shout, he didn't need to, his voice rumbled. "You soft-shelled, pampered interstellar peace puffins are now part of unified combat protocol," he said, pacing. "Here your species don't matter. Your fancy medals, toss 'em. Your philosophies on non-violent conflict resolution, shove 'em." He stopped in front of a Cythari cadet. "You float?" "Yes, sir." "You'll crawl by the end of today." He turned to a Branath. "You claw?" "With honor, yes." "Hope your honor hugs you good night when your fingers fall off from frostbite drills." Then he got to the humans. He simply nodded. "You know the deal." They all nodded back, grinning. Tyrell turned to Solvak. "I'm not sure we're ready for this." Solvak's pupils dilated. "Commander, I'm not sure the galaxy is." That night, as lights dimmed, Tyrell sat on the edge of his bunk, reviewing Earth's military history. Wars, disasters, survival scenarios. Entire chapters were marked classified by request of non-human psychological safety officers. The datapad buzzed. A message from the Council's Science Division. "Reminder, Earth is officially classified as a death world. Training standards must be adjusted accordingly." He stared at the screen. A death world and these smiling lunatics were their standard recruits. Tyrell looked down the barracks hallway just in time to see two humans doing push-ups on their knuckles while trash-talking each other in poetry. He swallowed hard. The war hadn't started, but something inside him whispered, "This is how it begins." The sun hadn't risen, mostly because the asteroid Sigma 9 orbited didn't have a sun. It was locked in perpetual half-light, shrouded by static clouds and war debris. A fitting place, thought Commander Terrell, to begin what humans referred to as basic training. He stood on the edge of the drill field with Solvac at his side. In the center of the yard, recruits from across 5 species waited in neat formation, flanked by floodlights and rusted obstacle scaffolding. Then came the sound. Boom! Explosions. Not simulated. Live ordnance, dirt and ash erupted around the field as pop-up targets sprang to life, releasing clouds of smoke and debris. Sirens howled. Warning lights blinked red. Sergeant Voss appeared from the shadows like a war god. "Rise and grind, Cupcake Platoon," he bellowed. "This ain't a peace rally. This is your wake-up kiss from hell." The humans immediately dropped into a sprint. The aliens hesitated. "Run!" Voss roared. The first obstacle was a crawl trench, narrow, jagged, and under live fire. Branath warriors took one look and balked. "Surely this is ceremonial," one muttered. "Nope," a human shouted, laughing as she dove headfirst into the mud, bullets crackling above her like lightning bugs. Cethary attempted to hover over the trench. "Fly and you fry," Voss screamed. The next instant, EMP towers crackled. The Cithari dropped like meteors. One shrieked in binary, "Error! Tactical error! Why is this allowed?" By the second phase, the aliens were limping. The humans? Just sweating. They were now scaling burning ladders, while dodging foam grenades designed to simulate plasma bursts. One alien vomited. Another tried to hide behind a crate. Until a human spotted him, grinned, and shouted, "Hey, newbie, this ain't story time, move!" Then came the buddy carry. Paired in twos, recruits were expected to haul their partners across 300 meters of jagged rocks, simulated shell-shock audio blaring in their ears. Solvac watched in open horror as a 70-kilo human woman picked up a 110-kilo Branath on her back and took off at a sprint. "She is lifting him." With one arm, Terrell muttered, stunned. The Branath was too surprised to resist. "She's singing," Solvac said. Indeed, the human was belting out some ancient Terran tune that involved breaking free and never looking back. It had rhythm. The other humans joined in. Now it was a marching song. By the 5th obstacle, half the alien cadets were curled up on the sidelines, gasping. A vapor pit, filled with neural mist designed to disorient, had turned even the Branath into twitching jelly. One Cithari was crying in 6 harmonic tones. Trell tried to help a fallen warrior to his feet. "Steady, soldier." The recruit blinked wildly. "They smile while dying, they laugh while they bleed." "Who?" Terrell asked. The alien pointed toward the mist, voice shaking. "The Deathworlders." At the end of the drill, Voss stood before the gasping group, covered in soot, soaked in sweat, grinning like a sadistic saint. "You think this was hard?" he growled. "This was orientation. Tomorrow we start day 1. A Cithari shrieked and fainted. "Deathworlders do not." "Understand pain limits," someone shouted. Voss smirked. "That's the secret, Cupcake." He pointed toward the humans now casually stretching, high-fiving and doing post-drill pull-ups. "Pain is the limit. That's why we don't stop there." Later, in the infirmary, Terrell stood among bruised and broken recruits. His comlink buzzed. Message from Council Supervision Team. Report training atmosphere. Expected cooperation rating, 82%. Expected trauma rating, 0.3%. Confirm. He looked across the medbay, at a Cithari curled in fetal position, a Branath whispering to himself, and a human who was requesting a rerun of the exercise for fun. He typed slowly, "Cooperation, unknown. Trauma, 0.3% for the humans. For the rest of us, the nightmare has just begun." There it stood, a jagged monolith of steel and scorched alloy, 60 meters high, rimmed in barbed coils and smeared with rust-colored stains no one had the courage to ask about. The Wall. It didn't have a real name. It didn't need one. The recruits had only heard whispered rumors, of bones embedded in the upper ridges, of screams echoing down its shadow, of entire species withdrawing from the program because of it. Commander Tyrell had seen warfronts. That made Stars shudder, but even he paused. "They expect the cadets to scale this?" Solvac asked, his frills pale. "No safety harnesses, no anti-grav." Tyrell squinted. "It's madness." A Branath warrior stepped forward, claws gleaming. "We will crush it." He made it 6 meters up before a retractable panel slammed open and shot compressed steam in his face, launching him backward into a pile of sandbags. His armor hissed. He didn't get up. "Wall doesn't like confidence," a human recruit muttered nearby, cracking his knuckles. "Or climbers." The humans were stretching, laughing. One of them, Cato, had drawn a crude smiley face near the base of the wall in chalk. Underneath it he wrote, "Pain loves company." A Sithari floated over, confused. "Why are you drawing on it?" Cato winked. "Helps us remember. The wall's not the enemy." "Then what is?" He patted the metal. "Quitting." The drill began. Alien after alien tried. Some used claws, others hovered. One Branath tried to launch a grappling spike, but the wall ate it, literally. It folded inward and swallowed the spike like a metal-jawed predator. Gasps spread through the crowd. "This is not an obstacle," a Sithari whispered. "This is a sentient entity of hatred." Humans were now lining up. "All right, knuckleheads," Sergeant Voss barked. "Climb the pain pyramid. First one to the top gets a week off rations, unless they don't want it, in which case I'll just..." Scream compliments at them till they cry, the humans charged. The first was a lanky recruit with 2 missing fingers and a broken wrist from the last exercise. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed a sparking ledge and hauled himself up, grinning. Behind him, Cato started a chant. "Left, right. Pain's our friend, and fear's a lie." Other humans joined in. A bald woman named Reyes punched the wall before climbing it, punched it as if it owed her money. An alien recruit covered his eyes. "Why do they chant while suffering?" "Because," Solvac whispered, "it comforts us less than it comforts them." Halfway up the wall, the electric coils activated. "Voltage live," announced the wall's AI voice. "Climbers will experience motivational discouragement." Bolts of plasma arced across the structure. Sithari screamed. A Branath began to pray. "The humans!" they roared. One of them took a hit directly to the chest, arched backward. Han kept climbing. "She's still moving," Tyrell murmured. "She's humming a song," Solvac added, "about lightning being free cardio." 2 hours passed. The aliens gave up. Not one had reached more than halfway. Most were nursing burns, cuts, and a newfound fear of verticality. But at the peak of the wall, 3 humans stood, bruised, bloodied, and laughing. Reyes lifted a small metal spike and drove it into the summit, a symbolic marker. It read, "No mercy, no surrender, no excuse." She turned and shouted down, "You're not done till the wall hates you." The humans cheered. The aliens stared. "What is wrong with them?" One Branath groaned. Sergeant Voss clapped his hands. "And that's how you kiss the sky, cupcakes." That night, as medbots moved through the barracks, Tyrell sat in silence. Across the room, a Sithari stared at his own trembling hands. "We are not weak," he said quietly. "We are not cowards." "No," Tyrell agreed. "But we are, not them." There was no shame in it, just an ancient fear, a primal understanding that humans had evolved not in harmony, but in defiance. Not in balance with nature, but against it. Their world had demanded fire, poison, blood, and chaos, and in return, it had shaped monsters that smiled at the climb. Day 9 of joint training. Morale across alien units was already brittle. Bones had healed slower than pride. The wall still loomed behind the barracks like a mute witness to collective humiliation. And then the bot broke. It was supposed to be a simple combat simulation. Just a reflex drill against a Mark IV autonomous combat trainer, non-lethal, precision-limited, and programmed with Council safety protocols. Except someone forgot one important thing. Deathworlders don't believe in safety. The Mark IV's neural core glitched mid-drill, its targeting system rebooting with old Terran war codes from a long-forgotten military conflict. Its eyes turned red. The safety light went off. It roared to life and fired. The plasma bolt missed by inches, vaporizing. A chunk of flooring near the scythery line. Screams erupted. The Branath scattered. Trell drew his sidearm instinctively, yelling for cover. "It's gone rogue! Stand down and retreat!" The bot stomped forward, guns clicking and swiveling. It had entered engage all hostiles mode. An elite synthetic killer, now unshackled. Alien trainees scrambled. Defensive formations shattered. One Branath was already down, shielding 2 Sithari with his body as sparks tore through the air. "Why hasn't the command override worked?" Solvak screamed. "The override's coded in Terran logic," shouted a technician. "The syntax requires profanity." Then Cato stepped in, unarmed. Smiling, of course, he whistled. "Whoa there, buddy, you lost or just woke up cranky?" The bot fired a warning blast. Cato ducked and rolled, coming up laughing. "Yup, definitely cranky." Reyes followed him in, dragging a metal pipe behind her like a gladiator. "Took you long enough to go haywire. I was starting to get bored." The rest of the human squad closed ranks. The aliens watched in horror as 5 humans, unarmored, bleeding, grinning, charged the out-of-control machine. Trell's voice caught in his throat. "They're not retreating," Solvak whispered. "They don't know how." The bot swiveled to fire. Reyes hurled the pipe, striking its optics dead center and blinding its left sensor. Kato vaulted over a crate and landed on its back, jamming a ration fork into the venting port. "Gotta love cheap Earth metal," he laughed. The bot roared, bucked, spun wildly, but another human had already jumped onto a leg. 2 more rushed, it from the sides, hitting it with pieces of broken exercise equipment. An iron plate, a weighted rope, even a dented medkit tray. "You said this was a training drill." A Sithari cadet cried from behind cover. "This is training," Terrell muttered. "For them." "No, this is suicide. Not if they win." The bot flung Reyes off with a swipe that would have pulped most species. She slammed into a wall and bounced to her feet like it was just another warm-up. Blood running down her temple, she shouted, "Little help, Cato?" Cato landed on the ground, still smiling. "Gotcha." He sprinted up the machine's back again, grabbed its chassis and pulled, with nothing but muscle and madness. The rear power core ripped out with a screech of sparking cables. The bot froze. Then it exploded in a burst of smoke and sparks, silence, coughing, crumbling metal, and the unmistakable sound of a human popping his shoulder back into place. "Who needs coffee when you've got mayhem?" Reyes muttered. Terrell approached cautiously, stepping over twisted fragments of scorched alloy. "Why, didn't you flee?" he asked. Cato looked up, soot covering his grin. "Because it was just a training bot." "It tried to kill you." "Yeah. That's how you know it's a good workout." Later, the aliens gathered in the medbay, staring at the humans with something between awe and confusion. The Branath warrior, who'd tried to shield his allies earlier, leaned toward Terrell. "They ran toward the threat. They mocked it," said a Sithari. "They improvised weapons. They bled and laughed in the same breath. Solvak finished it for them. They broke the bot, and they never broke." That night, in the command lounge, Terrell reviewed Earth combat footage from historical records. One file caught his attention: Terran Boot Camp, Jungle Reaper Edition. The first 10 seconds featured a recruit running on broken glass, being shouted at by a drill sergeant with a megaphone and a flamethrower. Trell turned off the screen and stared into the void beyond the viewport. "Gods help us," he whispered. "We're training beside predators who think war is just an aggressive workout." It was supposed to be rest day. After 2 weeks of brutal training, Council regulations required a mandatory 24-hour recovery cycle. No drills, no combat sims, just nutrition, meditation, and species-appropriate downtime. Terrell had never needed that phrase before this mission. Now he clung to it like religion. The alien recruits welcomed the break, like starving men meeting water. Branath retreated to quiet hibernation pods. Sithari downloaded soothing neural hymns. Even the insectoid creels simply cocooned in bionets to recharge their exoskeletal tension, and the humans, they went feral. Trell had just finished logging the morning check-in when Solvak barged into the comms room, eyes wide, frills twitching violently. "They're fighting," he hissed. "All of them." Terrell dropped his tablet. "Who? The humans?" "No, not fighting. Playing?" "That sounds worse." Outside, the drill field had transformed. Gone were the explosive traps and live fire simulations. In their place, a chaotic sprawl of scavenged gear. Broken metal poles, water balloons, Terrell didn't know where those came from, and makeshift obstacles. At the center of it stood Reyes, holding a trash can lid as a shield and wearing a helmet made from a dismantled kitchen processor. "We call it Warball," she shouted. "2 teams, 1 objective, no mercy." The humans cheered. One of them, Cato again, was duct-taping foam around a sharpened mop. Terrell blinked. "Is that regulation?" "No," whispered Solvak. "It's worse. It's creative." The game began with a blast from a modified air horn. The humans exploded into motion. They leapt over barricades. They flung water balloons like plasma grenades. Someone had filled one with pepper sauce. Another had rigged a leaf blower for crowd control. Terrell watched in horror as Cato jumped from a second-story balcony with a pillow strapped to his chest. He landed on Reyes, tackled her to the ground, and laughed while getting pummeled with pool noodles by 3 other humans. "They're not even keeping score," Solvak muttered. "That's the most terrifying part," Terrell replied. "This isn't about victory, it's about chaos." At one point, 2 Branath wandered too close, lured by curiosity. A water balloon hit one square in the face. Steam rose from his fur. Cato waved at them. "You're in now, welcome to Team Red." The Branath froze. "We didn't consent. Too late." They were pulled into the fray. Within moments, the Branath were roaring in delight, charging through foam barricades and laughing like lunatics. Terrell watched this unfold, whispering to himself, "We're witnessing the birth of something primal and stupid and horrifyingly effective." Later, inside the infirmary, soaked to the bone and bruised from friendly fire, the humans sat in a circle. They were grinning, telling stories, patching up minor cuts with duct tape and slapping each other on the back. "This," Reyes said proudly, "is why we never burn out." "You nearly concussed a creel with a cantaloupe," someone pointed out. Reyes shrugged. "That's just cross-cultural bonding." In the observation lounge, the alien recruits sat together in shell-shocked silence. The Branath, still dripping, from his unplanned baptism by Warball, spoke first. "I felt joy, and also pain, and also fear. I don't know what that combination is called." "It's called being around humans," muttered a Sithari. "They think injury is restful." "I heard them say pain is the spice of life," whispered a Creel. Solvak turned to Terrell. "Do they do this on actual leave?" Terrell slowly nodded. "There are ancient Earth rituals. One is called paintball. The other is family reunion. Both are war disguised as bonding." The next morning, as the drill schedule resumed, the aliens looked different, not stronger, not more confident, just humbled. They had seen the truth. That rest, to a Deathworlder, simply meant changing the type of violence. As the humans warmed up by slapping each other and daring the sun to rise faster, Terrell muttered into his log recorder, "Day 15. The humans do not rest. They reboot." Their madness with laughter and minor concussions. When asked why, they simply say, "It builds character." I now fear what they define as a soul. The aliens had survived. Just barely. For weeks they had fought through drills, simulations, and unspeakable training exercises with the humans. They had seen things that shattered their understanding of combat, of sanity, and most importantly, of themselves. The wall, the bot, Warball. But nothing had prepared them for what came next. It was time for real deployment. Graduation. The council had arrived, delegates from various species, holographic bureaucrats who couldn't understand the insanity of this training. But they were here to hand out accolades, certificates, high fives probably. Terrell felt his stomach tighten. He'd seen human war reports before. He'd studied the terror of their battlefield efficiency. But that was theory. This was reality. He turned to Solvak, who was pacing like a caged predator. "I'm not ready for this," Solvak muttered. "No one's ready for this." "You said it, not me," Terrell replied. "Just try to remember, we have the weapons. They lined up on the field, the alien recruits all wearing their best attempt at military protocol. Humans were already scattered in the distance, checking their gear and laughing. They didn't even seem concerned. "What are they doing?" a Branath growled. His fur bristled with tension. Kato stood on the edge of the field, tossing a grenade, up and down like it was a rubber ball. "Just making sure the booms are good." The council stood at attention, their official insignia shimmering in the sunlight. A tall Sithari delegate cleared his throat and spoke through a translator. "The graduates of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy have completed their training. The next step is field deployment. However, it will be noted that human recruits have not demonstrated normal response patterns to stress and trauma." A holographic screen flipped on behind him, showing scenes from the wall, from Warble, from broken bots, from unthinkable feats of stupidity, violence, and unbelievable survival. I can't look at this anymore," muttered a Creel, shaking his head. "Why are we celebrating this?" Trell gave him a grim look. "Because we have no choice. All right, you beautiful freaks of nature," Sergeant Voss's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "Graduation's over. We got a real mission, and I don't want to see any whiny aliens crying about not being ready." The humans lined up. Their faces were flushed with excitement. Some wore battle scars from training. Others were just giddy, like they were about to embark on the greatest adventure of their lives. Terrell felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. He could already see the terrible truth. Humans don't just fight for victory. They fight for fun. The mission briefing started, and immediately, Terrell realized they weren't being sent to a peaceful diplomatic conference or an observation post. No, they were being deployed straight into enemy territory, a hostile planet, the Grinks, a species infamous for their brutal warfare tactics, bioweapons, and hostile biology. Their homeworld had been a graveyard for previous peacekeeping missions. Nothing ever came back from there, except for a handful of human recruits. The Council had no choice but to send in the combined force. The humans? They looked excited. "All right, folks," Sergeant Voss shouted. "We're going to the Grinks' homeworld. You know what that means, time to earn some scars." Terrell's mind raced. The Grinks would obliterate them in seconds. The humans might as well be walking targets, and yet the humans just smiled widely. "We're ready, Sarge," Cato said, slinging his weapon. "Just point us in the right direction." The airlock opened. Trell couldn't believe how the humans were laughing as they stepped onto the Grinks' homeworld, where the ground itself felt like it was alive, writhing with hostile energy. The air was thick with toxins. Alien fauna screeched in the distance. The Branath couldn't stop shaking. The Sithari appeared to be meditating, trying to find peace within the chaos. The Creel were checking their weapons 1,000 times, but the humans, they were making snarky comments to each other about how the local wildlife looked hungry, and whether the Grinks had any better beer than the last planet. "Just keep your heads on straight," Sergeant Voss said, cracking his neck. "This has where we shine, team. We don't back down from this. We go in like it's another Tuesday, and we show 'em what happens when you mess with Deathworlders." Terrell felt his heart race. They were stepping into the belly of the beast. The Grinks would not stop until they'd bled the peacekeepers dry. The Grinks didn't negotiate. They didn't negotiate with anything. But Terrell knew something now. Something his people had never understood. Something he had seen in the humans' eyes during every exercise, every insane stunt they'd pulled. It wasn't courage. It was unfathomable insanity that made them unbreakable. As the last airlock closed behind them, Terrell's voice echoed in the empty cargo bay, his words barely a whisper. "We're all going to die, aren't we?" Solvak smiled weakly. "No, not if they don't know how to quit." And with that they were off into the storm,